What's the economy like on the ground right now? The RBA rate rises, they're designed to subdue demand. In other words, to cut people's spending. And the latest retail sales numbers show, well, kind of that. Flat growth in spending. But while spending is flat because of price rises, the actual amount of goods that shoppers are taking home, well, that's falling. This week I sat down to chat with Rob Scott, Chief Executive of Wesfarmers, owner of Bunnings Warehouse, Kmart, Officeworks, and more recently, the Priceline pharmacy chain. And I asked him just how quickly the shopper's mood is changing.
We're seeing a normalisation of a very unusual and almost honeymoon period for retail, with low interest rates, a lot of government stimulus, constraints around supply chain, which made it possible to extract higher prices. And now we're seeing not only a normalisation of behaviour, but interest rates, cost of living pressures, mortgage rates, all of this making customers more value conscious. So, you know, as a retailer, you've really got to have your act together at the moment.
Okay, so as a retailer, you're seeing basically that retail sales are sort of slipping, but they're kind of holding in value terms, but in volume terms, they're way down. Is that what you're seeing inside most of your stores?
Well, you're absolutely right. The sales are still holding up because we've seen a lot of inflation, a lot of price inflation there, but we're also seeing changes in the way that consumers are spending. So they're definitely focused on more value-orientated products. So as we've said in the last few months, businesses like Kmart are actually really well positioned in the current environment. Businesses like Bunnings, Kmart, Officeworks that pride themselves in everyday low prices with a price beat guarantee, that really matters at times like this.
Okay, so but in Kmart and even Bunnings itself, the other part of the equation is whether you can buy well enough to be able to maintain margins in the face of this change of consumer behaviour.
Yeah, absolutely, Ross. And look, the great thing with a business like Kmart is 80% of the product that we sell, we design, we source directly in very large volumes. There are no middlemen involved, and that enables us to keep our costs really low. And then on the other side of the equation, our costs of doing business, we run really low cost structures with the warehouse format, large stores, which allows us to keep our costs down. So I feel that we're pretty well progressed on productivity and efficiency initiatives in order to keep our costs down, which then let us keep our prices low.
Okay, so can I take you to Wesfarmers, because obviously this week you've done the big investor roadshow and the strategy day and so forth, and just go to the heart of this business right now. Retail is the dominant area you make your profit, your return, your revenues. Are you actually a retailer with a few growth businesses on the side?
Well, look, over the years, Ross, people have sought to define Wesfarmers in different ways. Like at the moment, you might say we're like a retailer. There have been times when we've been a rural business, other times when we've been considered an energy business or similar. We never define ourselves that way. Our whole reason for being as a company is to deliver a satisfactory return to shareholders. Now, we describe that as a top quartile total shareholder return over the long term. Now, it's not a very exciting ambition, but it's a very powerful objective to keep us focused on allocating our capital in ways that are going to deliver great returns. And look, for the time being at least, our retail businesses are delivering on that. But we're also looking to the future with investments in lithium, our chemicals, energy and fertiliser business and healthcare business, which I'm quite optimistic about for the decade ahead.
Okay, so if I talk right here now to Mike Henry, the Chief Executive of BHP, he would tell me that that business is structured on a view that there is an ongoing growth in China, that there is an ongoing population growth in the world, that there's an energy transition. And so he wants to be big in the minerals that will actually aid those areas, which might be phosphate, or it might be copper, or it might be iron ore. In your case, is it that similar top-down approach that would describe your philosophy of the way in which this business is set up?
Well, kind of, but not really, I'd say. So I'd say that we think it can be a bit dangerous to be obsessed with a particular thematic, and that then drives your capital allocation strategy. Often you can identify a strategic theme or thematic in the market, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to generate a good shareholder return by investing in that area. Now, over the decades, Wesfarmers has pursued different strategies around capital allocation, and the strategies that worked 3 decades ago are different to the ones that worked in the last decade, which will be different to the ones in the future. So we're deliberately quite agnostic about that. But some of the points that you mentioned are certainly areas where we are seeing opportunities. We were one of the early investors in lithium processing and development. And so far that development's going really well and will be generating cash flows next year. Now that is a big part of us identifying the opportunities in decarbonisation, selling our coal mines that had delivered fantastic returns to shareholders but weren't going to help us in the decades ahead.